Do we have someone doing the invocation? Pastor Bill. Pastor Bill, okay. I'm going to call this meeting to order. If you'll please rise. We have Pastor Bill to give us our invocation, and I've asked Supervisor Lingenfelter to lead us in the pledge.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, supervisors, and guests. Heavenly Father, we just come before you right now, Lord, thanking you for the opportunity that we have to come before you, come before the county right now, Lord. I just pray that you bless these each one of these supervisors as they do the business of the county. Father, I just thank you for the privilege that they have to serve us. I thank you, Father, for all the guests that come in. Lord, we just thank you that we know that government is ordained by you, and I pray that as this meeting goes on, it'll be pleasing to you the way it goes out. Give everybody strength and wisdom as how to provide their business. We just thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Indivisible, liberty and justice.
Need a motion to call for an executive session to be held on July 1st, 2024. Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Official business to come before the board, discussion of pending or contemplated litigation claims in demand. Mr. Esplin?
Good morning. Nothing to report.
You sent us something this week about some lawsuit that we prevailed. Can you talk about it?
Well, there was a lawsuit that was over the fees for Golden Valley Improvement District. The court granted our motion for summary judgment.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Committee and their legislative reports. Supervisor Johnson.
We had an MPO meeting. We've hired Annie Barrett to be the new MPO director. That's all.
Okay. Supervisor Gould.
Nothing today, Madam Chairman.
Supervisor Bishop.
Nothing. Thank you.
Supervisor Lingenfelter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The legislature, I think they went sine die Saturday evening. There was some late attempts to pass some rural groundwater legislation. There were some improvements for what Mojave County had been seeking, but it didn't include. There were some things that were not good in there. So actually, the rural legislation did not pass. Rumor is that the governor is going to be calling a special session to tackle water, both rural issues, and then there's a bill called Ag to Urban, which did pass, but I don't think that it had everything in the bill that all the legislators wanted, so it may get vetoed, and then a comprehensive package. I think they may try to approach a comprehensive package during a special session, but we'll have to see. That's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. I attended the opening of the new bridge between Bullhead and Laughlin. We'll be having a presentation in a few minutes from Bullhead City. That was a wonderful event. And do we have a legislative report this morning from High Ground?
Madam Chair, board members, yes, we do.
Okay, so I'll let High Ground give you the rundown of what happened at the end of the legislative session. All right,
good
so
morning.
Let's bring High Ground in.
Morning, Madam Chair and Supervisors. I appreciate again the opportunity to speak to you all. As Supervisor Lingenfelter said, the legislature adjourned sine die 9:46 p.m. Saturday evening. Many of us got to enjoy our Saturdays down at the Capitol. So that was interesting. This year there were 1,660 bills, 313 of them passed, 160-day session. So it was a long session, but not quite as long as the last 2 years. As Supervisor Lingenfelter indicated, there were some rumblings about an attempt to pursue rural groundwater legislation starting on Friday. The challenge with that is that for months, I and some colleagues have been working on getting things that Kingman and Mojave County need in, and I say Kingman because that's the main part of the Hualapai Valley Basin, but need to be incorporated in the legislation. As you all know, we already have a closed basin in the Hualapai Valley. So the benefit of a closed basin doesn't change with us because we got that INA back in 2021. The proposal that was effectively manifested into an amendment that went on the floor on Saturday was born out of a counter offer to our coalition that came Monday of last week. Now, we had made an offer all the way back on May 9th and really did not hear a whole lot in the way of a counteroffer until June 10th. And then without giving sufficient time to sort of review and critique the proposal, the legislature, a few folks in the legislature decided to throw the language that they had created on June 10th into, or the bullet points I should say that they created on June 10th into a bill that showed up on Saturday. So it did close basins. We already have a closed basin, so that's not a change for us. The challenge was that the conservation would have been limited to a maximum of 15% over the lifetime of that basin's protections. That means that the Hualapai Valley Basin would have maintained about a 20,000 acre foot deficit annually for the life. That doesn't really extend the longevity of the basin much longer than what I think we were looking for. There were some other provisions with the makeup of a local council and how it could be overweighted for certain sectors. And then additionally, some concerns with respect to, and I think it just needs a little bit more evaluation, but with respect to the amount of water allocation that the city of Kingman would get to service all of your residents, both in city limits and outside of. The bill failed. It did not have the votes to pass. As Supervisor Lingenfelter said, we believe that there's going to be a special session. I would anticipate that the ag to urban bill mostly for Maricopa County, but it did impact Pinal and Pima. I would expect that to be vetoed. And then sometime before mid-August, I would expect us to have a special session to potentially resolve these two items. I'm happy to take any questions if you have any.
Anyone have any questions? You do? Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What is your outlook on the opioid money that was swept?
So, Madam Chair, Mr. Johnson, as you know, my main focus for the county is on water. However, I can say that I did have a conversation with Attorney General Mays on Wednesday of last week, I believe it was. No, it was Thursday. I'm sorry, on Thursday of last week. Attorney General Mays is going to litigate, I would anticipate, on that. And I think it's just going to be borne out in the courts. I think her significant concern is that it puts the receipt of future monies at risk based on how we're using these monies. I can, if the board would desire, I can reach out to Attorney General Mays. Her and I speak probably weekly, but I can reach out to her and get some information for you and provide an update back.
That's $500 million they took from opioid monies?
No, it was, Madam Chair, Mr. Johnson. It was, I think the initial amount was somewhere in the neighborhood of 115 million. I'd have to go and check on the final amount. I was largely focused on water all day Saturday, but I'll go and check on the final amount for you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the opioid money, this is not going to come out of our share of the opioid money. This is the state share that landed in the Attorney General's office. She's been wanting to spend it for a long time. She wants to play Santa Claus, but the legislature has the final say because it has to go through the appropriations. And so there's been a battle going on for a long time. Just from the general knowledge or information I received, I do think what they want to spend it for is going to be allowed. But we'll see what happens, as it's like everything going to end up in the courts. But it will not affect our share of the opioid money. Anything else?
That's correct.
And I think it's 50 million. when all is said and
Yeah,
done. Yeah.
Madam Chair, the initial amount was much higher. I had heard 75 at some point Saturday, but I did not
Well, because
identify the
she-
final amount. And
She already
and you are
spent
correct.
some
It
of
was,
it. She already spent some of it for the sheriffs. So
Yes.
I think it's 50 million left, but you'll let us know if that's a different.
will do.
Okay, anything else? Sam?
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. I just have one item under the county manager's
Oh,
report.
okay, 1 second. I want to say goodbye. Ms. Ponder, first.
I thank you.
You got it. And now the county manager. You thought I was going to forget, didn't you? Always do.
Wasn't sure. Good morning again. So during the last Board of Supervisors meeting on June 3rd, Mr. Kern spoke during the call to the public at that meeting. Mr. Kern stated that squatters live on county-owned property next door to him in Golden Valley, and that he contacted county staff and nothing is being done to address his concerns. Additionally, he stated that when he voted previously, his provisional ballot did not count. Just wanted to clear the record, Madam Chair and board members. So for the record, Mojave County does not own the property in question. The property of concern is in private ownership. The owner lives at the property. County staff had received the complaint, had inspected the property, and opened a case of a violation or non-compliance on May 15th. So that was 2 weeks prior to the board meeting and Mr. Kern speaking. The owner is currently working with county staff to get a permit and to clean the property to come into compliance. As far as or regarding the voting concerns, all I can tell you is, according to our county recorder's office, Mr. Kern is no longer a registered voter in Mojave County, and we don't have record of him receiving a provisional ballot for previous election. That concludes my report.
Okay, any questions?
No questions. I just want to make a comment. I spent almost an hour with Mr. Kearns, I believe Sunday, with the same complaint. So if it's possible for us to get back with Mr. Kearns and let him know what your information was that you just shared, in case he's not listening today, or perhaps that's him standing in the audience over there. Thank you.
We'll be happy, Madam Chair and Supervisor Bishop will be happy to follow up. My understanding is he's also got a meeting scheduled with the recorder's office today.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to bring we have two short presentations this morning, and both agencies need to get back to their respective offices. So I'm going to call up Assistant County City Manager Travis Pruitt, who's going to give us a couple of minute presentation on what I was talking about earlier, the new bridge.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chairman and County Manager and Supervisors. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come in and speak this morning. I just wanted to come in and talk a little bit about the new bridge in Bullhead City. Many of you may have heard about it, but before I get into that, I just want to thank all the supervisors and the county manager for your continued support throughout this whole bridge process. A special thank you to Hildy Angus, supervisor for the area in Bullhead City. We absolutely appreciate your support. We about a week ago, we actually opened the new bridge. We did a real huge party celebration to kind of commission the bridge and get it going. It was an awesome time. I'm going to show you a video in just a bit here. We had a stage out on the bridge, had a band up there, had Kona Ice there, and giving out free donuts and things like that. So a really awesome time to commemorate a really special occasion. So this bridge, of course, it's in Bullhead City, but when things like this happen, it really is a benefit for the whole county and broader, even beyond Bullhead City. I mean, it opens up opportunities for business, connects people, And, you know, our city manager, Mr. Toby Cotter, one of the things he really focuses on is making it easy to do business in Bullhead City. We want to reduce barriers, but also create an environment where business can be successful, and that's part of what this bridge is doing. So before I show the video, I do want to read a few facts about the bridge just to share this information with folks. So the new bridge was officially commissioned on June 7th, 2024, and became open for traffic noon that day. I know that because I was there at 6 in the morning working until noon that day. It was a warm day, but thanks for everybody who came out. I appreciate it. So the bridge is named the Silver Copper Crossing, and this represents the connected history of silver mining in Nevada and copper mining in Arizona, both of which are important industries that help shape and build each state respectively. This is the second bridge connecting Laughlin and Bullhead City, the first being the commonly known Laughlin Bridge, which is about 8 miles north of the Silver Copper Crossing. Now, the Silver Copper Crossing spans 724 feet across and rests 35 feet above the Colorado River. It has one lane for vehicle traffic in each direction and includes a multi-use trail on its south side of the bridge for pedestrians, runners, and bicyclists. It also includes 2 overlook stations on the multi-use trail where users can take in beautiful views of the Colorado River and the surrounding area. So I would really recommend, if you get an opportunity, if people weren't able to make the grand opening event, go out and actually, you can walk on the bridge. Like I said, it's a pedestrian walkway, so you can go up there and take advantage of those lookout points with amazing views of the Colorado River. So if you get a chance, take it in. So the main reason for building this bridge is to facilitate ease in crossing the Colorado River for residents on both sides of the river and throughout Mojave County. But really, the bridge goes much further than that, than just that. It will serve to stimulate economic vitality, enhance tourism, expand access for emergency vehicles and buses, and ease traffic constraints along Highway 95 and other roadways in the area. In general, the new bridge is expected to further community connectedness and open up opportunities throughout the entire area. And again, when I say the entire area, we're talking throughout the whole county and beyond, because we're all connected in this, and when one area benefits, we all benefit. So with that being said, let me roll the video of the grand opening, and if you could roll that. And all right. Again, I thank everybody. I thank supervisors. I appreciate you having me today, and I'll hang around for a little bit if you have any questions. I'm here. Outside of that, I invite everyone, if you get some time, come out and check out the new bridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pruitt. Are there any questions? How many years did this take to build? You think I thought you were going to go a little into the history, which is long.
I thought about it. Well, I'll tell you this. Funny you mentioned that. So the county manager, Sam Elters, was out at the celebration, and we were chatting a little bit. And I was telling him, I was like, this is a historic moment. It's 20 years in the making. And he politely corrected me and said, I put it a little closer to 30. But really, I mean, we can haggle about the time it took to kind of do the political part, but the actual bridge was constructed in about 2.5 years. So I think that's a true testament to American ingenuity. So.
Right. And most of the money came from Nevada, right?
The majority came from the federal government. Nevada was the big push on it. So, but it is shared contribution between Clark County, smaller contributions between Clark County and Bullhead City, of course, but the majority comes from the federal government. Yeah.
Okay. And who's going to pay the upkeep it and maintain it?
Well, that'll be worked out through Nevada and Clark County and ourselves. So, yeah.
Very good. It was a great day. It was really hot, but a lot of people showed up. In case you missed it, the man leading the motorcycle line was our mayor, Steve D'Amico. So again, thank you. It was a great day, and thank you for coming today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Our next presentation is a discussion, possible action to approve Mojave County's audited annual financial reports presented by the Auditor General's Office and audit contract firm Fester and Chapman. Mr. Mornian?
Good morning, Chairman Angus and board members. So we have Kathleen Wood from the Arizona Auditor General's Office and Ben Herr, the partner in charge of the county's annual audit from Fester and Chapman.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Kathleen Wood. I'm a manager with the Arizona Auditor General's Office in our Quality Control Group. And just wanted to thank you for the opportunity of having us here today to present with Fester and Chapman. We've been working with them, and as you know, we are responsible for contracting out the audits when we can't do them ourselves, and sometimes staffing prevents us from taking on all the audits. And so we just wanted to explain our role real quick before Ben presents the 2023 audit results to you. We look for quality firms like Fester and Chapman to do the audits, and we are involved in the audit process in terms of reviewing the draft reports to ensure they are in compliance with standards. And so we also provide technical advice as well. So we've been working closely with Ben. And in conclusion, I just want to thank you again. We think this is a great opportunity for the board to ask questions about the audit. And with no further ado, I'll turn it over to Ben. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Board of Supervisors. My name is Ben Herr with the Fester and Chapman's. We have performed the finance statements and the single audit for the Mojave County for the year ended June 30 of 2023. Here is my presentations for you. First, this presentation is basically it's two parts. First is audit results summaries. We actually have issued our audit reports for the finance statements audit, and also separate reports for the single audit. And then there is third communication from us to the board, what we call the report to the Board of Supervisors. So that is kind of main report we issued. The second part of presentation is about the financial overview. The financial data from our financial auditor finance statements is included in the second part of this presentation. First, the finance statements audit. We have issued modified opinions on the Mojave County's finance statements, which means finance statements are presented fairly in all material aspects in accordance with the GAAP. We have reported the findings as a significant deficiencies related to the IT controls. Single audit. We also have a modified opinion issued on compliance for the major program we tested. These three are major program we tested, and the one is COVID-19 Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. Second one is COVID-19 Local Assistance and the Tribal Consistence Funds, and third one is COVID-19 Public Health Emergency Preparedness. Again, we have one significant deficiencies reported in internal controls over the major program related to the COVID-19 local assistance and the tribal consistent fund. Third communication from us is basically it is required communication for the auditors to let you know to see what had happened during the audit process. This report is including sensitive estimations used by the management for the preparation of financial statements. This is also including some disclosures used for the financial statements. It also we are happy to communicate back to you. We do not have any difficulties encountered during our performance of the audit. There was no disagreements with the management. As I mentioned earlier, we have included 3 significant deficiencies in our report. Second part, financial overview. So summary of net positions as of the June 30, 2023. The financial statements reported total asset and deferred outflows over approximately $580 million, and then total liability and deferred inflows over $202 million, which resulted in net positions of the Mojave County as of the June 30, 2023, 379 millions of net positions, which is made out of net investment capital asset, roughly 284 millions, restricted net positions of 87 millions, and unrestricted net position of 7.4 million. Revenues during 2023. Total revenue of the 280 million were reported for the counties. They are basically made out of $6 million from the operating grants and the contributions. Another $60 million came from the property taxes, and then 38 millions of state shared revenues, and then roughly 16 millions came from state shared vehicle license taxes. Expenses for the during 2023 is total expenses of the 200.5 million was reported for the financial statements, and then $77.4 million spent for the general government functions, and the $56 million was for public safeties, $24 million related to the highways and streets, and the $16.7 million was spent for the health functions. This concludes my presentations, and then I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Any questions for Mr. Herr? Anyone? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Yes, Supervisor.
Madam Chairman, will we be receiving a email or hard copy of that report?
Mr. Herr, did you hear that? Luke?
Yes, I believe that those reports are available through the Auditor General's website. You should have received the emails pointing out the link, but if you haven't received that one yet, I'm more than happy to send that over to you again.
Chairman Angus, those reports are also posted on the Financial Services webpage, but I'd be happy to forward a copy to the board members.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Supervisor Lingenfelter.
one question for Director Mournian. For the deficiencies that were noted, what is being done to shore those up?
So from the financial services side of things, there was a finding related to one of the major programs for the single audit. We've put additional review control in place for that to ensure that the reporting is completely accurate going forward. I'd have to defer to our IT director for the IT findings, but there are corrective action plans in place, and the descriptions of those are included in the report.
There are corrective action plans in place, and they're included in the report. We just haven't seen those yet. Okay, I look forward to reading those. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Mournian.
You're welcome.
Okay, now we're going to go to the call to public. The public body may make an open call to the public during
Chairman,
a public.
If I may
Yes.
jump in, I believe we need a motion to approve that, correct?
Oh, I'm so sorry. You're absolutely
Item
right.
50?
More than
Is
just
that
a
right?
presentation. Okay. Could've
I
waited
believe
till
it was item
but-
50.
All right, I need a motion for item 50.
And the motion is just to accept the report.
Madam
make
Chair,
a-
I'd make a motion to accept the report as noted in item 50.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very, very much. All right, like I said, we're going to the call to public. And before we start, I'm going to say a couple of things. The call to public is for things that are in our purview. But we have been very, very lenient with that over the years. And I personally think everybody has the right to address their government. I said it 13 years ago when we put it in, and I mean it today. But somehow in the last few years, it has really gotten out of control with the behavior and the words. So first of all, I've asked before, Mr. Esplin, about political signs at our meetings. My problem is if we allow one, we have to allow everybody. And when does it stop? Excuse me. Excuse me. You will be asked to leave if you blurt out one more time, Mr. McClure.
What's the question?
The question is political signs at our meeting.
Well, we don't allow any campaigning within the building.
And that includes this auditorium.
Absolutely, this is part of the
Okay.
building.
So thank you very much. So I'm not going to allow political signs, and I'm also not going to allow profanity. We have really devolved. You know, we talk about our students and our children and how badly behaved they are, and look at us. You know, what a role model. So this is what's going to happen. No political signs, and if you use profanity, I'm going to have your mic cut off. If you don't like it, Mr. McClure, you can call the Attorney General's office. I'm going to give you her phone number. It's 602-542-5025. She's itching for a reason to arrest me. So go ahead. But I'm not going to put up with this sort of overall bad behavior anymore. First up, Butch Merriweather. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I believe the prohibition on campaigning applies to county employees and not to the public. I believe that I can, as a member of the public, I can stand on the front of the building and campaign all I want because it's the public square.
In the past, I know this when I was running, we were told that we could not have political signs.
If I may respond.
Yes, please.
So whenever you're looking at analysis for constitutional questions of where you can do certain things, there's a forum analysis you have to do. And there's different types of forums, and based on what type of forum will dictate what kind of activities can be allowed and what kind of activities the government can say we can restrict it. For example, the traditional public forum is the park. At the park, the government has very, very limited ability to restrict things because that's a traditional public forum where somebody will go to the park and they'll do protesting or they'll do, all kinds of political stuff and things because that's the traditional public forum. The next one is the limited public forum. And what we have here in this building, in many respects, is a limited public forum where we can step in and we can do certain things because there's a different standard that we have because it's a limited public forum. So in a limited public forum, we can say, hey, we're not going to allow campaigning in here because we are using it for other purposes. This is used for a Board of Supervisor meeting to conduct a meeting. Then there's the third one where there is no public forum. For example, my office, your office. You can say, no, the public does not have a right to come into our offices. We can restrict that. Even though it's a public building, the taxpayers pay for it, but that's completely restricted where employees are working and they can say, okay, this is a basis where we can restrict where activities will take place. So here in this building, this is a limited public forum where we can restrict and say, hey, we are not going to allow politicking to happen because we're doing a business meeting and so on. So we can't allow that. It's not the message. We're not discriminating against anybody. We're saying, hey, in this hearing, in this meeting, we're having a limited public forum, and here's the purpose for which we're having that public forum.
And the discretion is with the chairman.
Well, certainly the chairman has that discretion whether to allow it or not. That's correct.
Right. So for now, if you get an Attorney General's opinion that I must let you electioneer during our meeting, I will apologize and I will allow you. But for now, no electioneering.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I just have one question for the attorney, if I could. I don't have any problem with people exercising their political rights outside. I mean, I think you see that pretty regularly across our country at public buildings. My only question to you, and it's, you have somebody that comes into a public meeting and it's being publicly broadcast on television and things like this, and they flash a sign, does that not become almost like a political commercial? And is that something that, where there's the line where, the county is offering basically free advertising for this or that? You know what I'm talking about?
I understand the question. It's a very valid question. Where I get into concerns, and I want to make sure that we're clear, is that we do not restrict a person's speech. And so when somebody says something and says, I want this or that, I recommend that you don't stop that. Let them have that speech. there is a point where somebody may go over the line where they may want to show up signs and do politicking where I can say, hey, this is not the purpose of this meeting, and we can restrict that. And so it's just a fine line of determining whether that is or not. We can restrict based on time, manner, and place. I have to look at the exact language that we're allowed to restrict on a limited public forum. But it's restricted to the purpose for which this meeting is for. I do not recommend that you cut off people. Let them have their speech. Have that speech take place, and we move on to the next item.
Even the profanity part that I talked about?
Absolutely. I understand no profanity.
Right. And people have been able to talk for years. We have never stopped people from saying what they wanted to say. I'm only talking about profanity. That's all. And if you get me Attorney General's opinion that I have to do that, because from everything I've learned over the years I've been here, there is no electioneering in the building, and we can't seem to get a definitive answer from our own attorney. So for now, that's going to be my rule.
Madam Chairman?
Madam Chair.
I'm going to challenge the authority of the chairman and request a roll call vote.
Okay. And for which one? Both of them? The profanity and the signs?
The signs.
The signs. So the profanity is okay to limit?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Seems I recall that they set aside out there in front for political signs and activism stuff. It's not inside the boardroom, so I would question the county attorney on that. I'm pretty sure that's the county rule.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
To sort of finish my question from Attorney Esplin, I think you kind of hit it. I'm not intimately familiar with the ins and outs of the law, and I think that I look, as far as one supervisor, look to you for definitive legal opinions about what is allowed and what is not allowed, and sometimes you kind of are wishy-washy. I'm sorry. And that doesn't help me as a non-attorney. I'm looking for you to tell me legal guidance about what is allowed in your opinion and what is not allowed in your opinion, and I'm going to abide by that because you're my attorney. I still am a little confused about the difference. Again, to Supervisor Johnson's point, I don't think that there's just anything wrong with people campaigning or doing whatever they do outside public forum. But I still have a question as far as people flashing signs during a publicly televised meeting, and does that constitute giving a free contribution to a campaign or something like that? Maybe I'm overthinking it, but that seems to be a dividing line to me because there's a commercial component involved.
I don't see it as commercial, and I see it as somebody expressing their viewpoint.
Okay, thank you.
At some point, there can be a line, and it is hard to define, but at some point, somebody may say, hey, that's campaigning, and you can step in and say, hey, look, let's get back to what the purpose of this meeting is for. And so it's tough to find that line sometimes.
Okay, I'll tell you what. We've had this discussion. Everybody knows how we feel. I'm asking for a little discretion from people who come up here. So I'm going to withdraw that, but I'm still going to implement the profanity part. Okay, because I think that is universal, that is unacceptable in a forum like this. I'm sorry you've had to stand there so long, Mr. Merriweather. So did you make a motion or you were going to?
Good.
All right, so now that I've withdrawn my thing.
It's not an issue.
That's right. Okay.
I see you have a sign up here. I'm Butch Merriweather. That's BUTCH MERIWETHER, and I reside at 2225 South Dome Road in Golden Valley. I'm speaking on behalf of the tax for the flood control. I'm neither for or against it. But the one thing I would like to ask is that they do some flood control in Golden Valley. I've lived there for 14 years, and all I've seen is some minor dirt movement on Shinnerup and Agua Fria. So they need to think about what they can do to rectify the flood, because when it rains really hard, Sacramento Wash really runs. And there's been, I think, if I remember right, about 5 people who have died trying to go through the flood, although they do have the dumb law thing, I mean, or stupid person, or whatever you want to call it, that try to drive through the things. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thank you very much. Chuck DeShazer. Mr. DeShazer.
Let's talk about fruit today. Anyway, my name's Chuck DeShazer, Topak, Arizona. I would like to ask Ron Gould to bring to the agenda at a future meeting soon the same thing that was brought up by Hildy Angus at the March 18th meeting, item 42, concerning the anonymous complaints being made to various departments here. At that, reviewing that tape from that day, you were either lied to or the Department of Development Services is incompetent. Either way, it's bad. What it comes down to is I have pulled a Freedom of Information request for a complaint on Mr. Logan Marsh's property. And what it comes down to is they do not, it's stated on their paperwork, what they sent to me, that it was an anonymous complaint. I went over there on Wednesday and talked to the head of, the code enforcement for the last 5 years. His name is Tom, and I talked to Barbara Carr, and they said I have everything that they have, and there is no complaint, or the person that complained, they can't tell me whether it came in by phone, by computer, by walk-in. They don't have a record of the complaint. What I find interesting in this is Mr. Logan Marsh seems to be running for the seat to be vacated by Gene Bishop. He pulled his papers on March of 23. Gilbert Smaby's also running for the exact same office. He pulled his papers to run for that office in July, and shortly thereafter there was a complaint made, and I have talked to Logan Marsh about it, and from what I can tell, the complaint seems to be he has to put his slide outs on his RV in, or put in a second septic tank on his own property. I can't see that a neighbor would ever complain about something like that. I also have on video, if anybody would like to see it, that the head of development or code enforcement says 90% of what they have is complaints that are anonymous. If they have 90%, I have to go in there in order to pull a Freedom of Information Act, put my name, my address, my phone number, my email, just to find out who that anonymous complaint was, and they can't even give it to me at this point. To me, it sounds like it could have been Gilbert Smaby that complained because he's running against Logan Marsh, and it happens, Occam's razor says the simplest thing is, I'm sorry, I'm finished.
Thank you. All right, Scotty McClure, come on down.
For one thing, Hildy, here again you go. That is a stolen, I'm tired of my stolen signs. I'm not here politicking. I've lost 15 signs at one location over there by the, yes, your people. Yeah, you and D'Amica. I'm sick of it. It's not politicking. This sign was put at the bridge at the opening at 7 a.m. By 9, it was gone by Steve D'Amica and his bunch of jackass maintenance people. They didn't want the sign out there at the bridge for you guys to drive by. Right next to Brady's sign that says yes on it. They left his up. They left Sue Ann Mellows and Jeannie Kinch's up. Kerry Lake is still up. But you took mine down. First of all, I requested a public records request from Melissa Ware, and Sue Ann Mello got involved. This is what I got. This is not what I asked for. I'm opening another one. That goes to Ryan Esplin. I'm not going through Susan Ware anymore. Getting the wrong. Stay out of my business. Yeah, they picked up all my signs over there. The little ones. Because I didn't have a phone number on it. I didn't want to be a pack. So then I put 10 of these out, the big ones. I didn't have a pack, so they took those out. They picked him up. Some of them are right next to Brady's low-life signs. This is what you have to do. 1.25 inches that you have to go through to be a PAC. My bank wouldn't do it. I had to go get another bank. This afternoon I'll be a PAC and I'll be putting them back up. That's not a political sign, Hillary.
Screaming.
This is stolen. I've lost over 40 of these little ones. And I'm going to put it on TV.
Keep it right.
This is what she's calling politics. No, these are stolen signs. Where's that creep from the day that bridge thing? Lost 15 of them at one location, Hilda. You better call your damn people off. It says the sign contains the name and telephone number. So I went and put names and telephone numbers on it. Then this one here's a PAC. So that's where I had to go by the rules of this. How in the hell? I'm sorry. I'm going to bounce your ears off. This is not a political sign, Hildy. You're about as low as they come. I swear I'll be glad when you're out of my office.
All right, then. All right.
Well, one person has it for
Armin Stang, please. Watch it.
Don't threaten me, Hildy.
Good morning, Chairman, Supervisors. Armin Stanger, Fort Mojave, also known as the German, according to my neighbors. So let's talk about some compassion today. We got told by code enforcement, one code enforcement officer, we have to show more compassion to our neighbors. Our neighbors don't show any compassion for us. Why should we return the favor? And I think code enforcement still needs to grow up here. Then I still have a neighbor with a motorhome in front of the property and people living in there. Make them go away. They don't belong there. They don't own property. Motorhomes are growing up and down the road now because they let them get away with it. And then the other problem we have is on Camino Colorado, the extension to the west, where supposedly the low-income and housing was supposed to be built, we find boats laying around there. They move from one property to another property. They get dumped in that empty property now. Whoever owns that property should be held accountable for cleaning up. And I think the county, if they clean it up for the property owner, they should charge the property owner. I called Erase a couple times on their boat that was sitting on Camino Colorado right in front of Venetian Storage. As soon as I took a picture of it, the truck showed up, drug it across the road. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Greg Beffert.
Supervisors, for the record, Greg Beffert. I'm going to have to put the revisionist Zionist education on hold for now because we're in a political year here. And I started in October by sending a letter to these people, letting them know that I was going to come out here and expose how government works. I was going to expose how some of you were complicit in varying degrees during COVID-19. Some of you were collectively complicit with the bureaucracy. The reason he's confused about the Constitution is that's not his forte. The Constitution wasn't his forte. His job was to protect the interest of this body right here, not the interest of the people. Let's put that on the table. And he failed at protecting our interests and our Constitution. That's why we went through what we went through during COVID-19, because that was his job. Protect the county and the county's interests, not ours. So let me tell you how it works here. Politicians, just like people that, as I interviewed as a detective, use all kinds of tactics to deflect, divert, minimize their involvement in it. And then ultimately, when they do confess, to what they did, because you catch them in the lies and you show the evidence, then no, again, minimize. Well, I did it because I killed this person. I went into the convenience store and killed him because I needed money. My kids were starving. So it's no different with politics. And what we observed 2 weeks ago was political grandstanding. You talk about political speech, the first thing you tried to do was shut down speech. There is no such thing as political speech. It's a made-up term. Or hate speech. Or anti-Semitic speech. Speech is speech. Okay? Profanity. So what you guys did last time was Supervisor Gould brought up the point that don't paint a broad brush over everybody here. There's levels of complicitness, and I said that from the very beginning. Some of you were more complicit than others, and Supervisor Gould was one of them. I watched his behavior throughout this thing, and he was consistent. This isn't an endorsement, because he has issues too that I'm going to address later. But the two law enforcement professionals knew damn well that there was no legal basis, that they were violating 18 U.S.C. 241 and 242, the case that I brought to the criminal side of the county attorney's office, and who accepted it until he got it up the chain of command and said, "You're going to make us complicit here. We're going to be liable. Time out." I'll be back to address that later. But he called it a pandemic. He acknowledged that the lies have come out. They've unfolded now. She calls it a pandemic. He tried to minimize his role. Yeah, I didn't vote for this. I didn't vote for it. But I had to spend the money. Tried to give it back. I get that. I'll be back.
Thank you very much. Steve Robinson. And then we have Jennifer Esposito and then Matt Kearns.
Stephen Robinson, Golden Valley. Put that up in a minute. Madam Chair, Supervisors, I understand that you are the duly elected representatives of the people. We are just some of the people, and I hope that some ideas I can present right now will cause you to do a little bit more thinking. I was pleased to hear the report from the Auditor General and Fester and Chapman, because it's important to me that financial reporting is done to the best degree possible. Here's a statement, the best practices from the Government Finance Officers Association. I'm going to put this on there and then I'll read it. The part in yellow says, the Government Finance Officers Association is on record recommending that all governments, state and local governments, prepare a comprehensive financial report. That means even Colorado City can produce a comprehensive financial report by their recommendations. The 3 cities in our county produce them. Mojave County used to produce a comprehensive financial report until 2001. That was the last year. The one big reason to produce a comprehensive report is it gives you the taxing ability to tax against your tax base. And when we're in an inflationary cycle, it makes more sense to pay for things with borrowed dollars, tax-exempt interest, than to tax people today. Another couple issues is this policy called the Fund Balance Policy Guidelines. There was 3 things that it said, and I was surprised that in 2017 or 15 we produced the first fund balance policy for the county. I was shocked to find out, talking to CFO Mornian, who was delightful to visit with, as has been Sam Elters. I like both of them. They're refreshing to be able to talk to people. But it says 2 to 3 months of money in the general fund account. 2, you got to report sub-funds, funds that are part of the general fund, like the current capital improvement fund. All the money that's in the capital improvement fund came from the general fund over the last 3 to 4 years. That is part of the general fund balance. And they point out sub-funds need to be counted in financial reporting, not necessarily budgetary reporting. I would love for you to go back to producing and establishing a policy of fund balance policy guidelines that I thought was established in 2015, but unfortunately it was never voted on. We need to have guidelines, and in my last 2 seconds, the GFOA recommends that they go to the state and get the states to make changes to encourage, i.e., require the states and counties, or the county and cities to
Thank
follow
you.
those guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Ms. Esposito, and then last is Matt Kearns. Don't know. There's a problem there. You all right? You need help?
I think I have it. The windsock. Jennifer Esposito, candidate for District 4 County Supervisor. I would like to touch very briefly, since it was brought up on the GVID litigation. I just want to say it was always expected that the case would be appealed to the Court of Appeals, because the case law controlling the constitutional right for initiative and referendum was from the Circuit Court of Appeals, related specifically to the Diamondback Stadium, having nothing to do with water districts. So there's no surprise that the judge would rule that way and basically kick the can back to the court who issued the original opinion that Mr. Esplin and your position says that the GVID ratepayers don't have that constitutional right. So the only thing left for you guys to decide is whether Mr. Esplin will litigate the appeal, whether outside counsel will litigate the appeal, or whether you'll repeal the resolution. That's up to you. Or maybe up to the new board, because Court of Appeals takes a while. So I just wanted to respond to that. But that was always expected. It was long delayed. I'm really happy that it's there, that it's finally done, so that we can finally move on and get a definitive decision. So just wanted to clear up any misunderstandings on that. In relationship, again, to where I've spoken the last 2 meetings on things like decorum and the comportment of this board, but, people criticize me because I come here in 3-minute increments and I use concise and sharp words, and I'm often critical. I do occasionally hand out a compliment when it's warranted. And as I previously said, the decorum of this board extends beyond simply the things that we do here. What the members do outside also reflects on this board. As I've stated, Supervisor Lingenfelter gets on Facebooks and calls me names. I think he called me a rabid dog one time. I've got a screenshot of that. A tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist. You've got Supervisor Bishop screaming at constituents in parking lots after the sheriff's debate, and I mean, it's all so unprofessional. And honestly, Chairman Angus, I really didn't appreciate after the first of the year when you gave out my personal cell phone number to a mutual friend of ours who no longer lives in Arizona, and she called and yelled at me on the phone for about an hour and 7 minutes in the rain while I was trying to feed my horses, because I had disagreed with your resolution. And I just thought that was a little unprofessional to give out my personal cell phone number to someone for something that was related to board business. So the thing is these things go beyond just what you do when you're sitting up there when the video's running. How everyone behaves in public when you are an elected official matters. I'd also like to say that I disagreed with your decision at the last meeting to appoint a new head of development services without putting that out as a request for qualifications. It was a mistake.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kearns.
Well, I don't know where to start here with all the big 3 minutes that you've given me, but Mr. Elters, the county manager, I thank you for recognizing me. I went through the proper procedure as a United States Naval E5 hull technician second class. We were always taught to keep it within division, never to kick it up until it's necessary. You think that you intimidated me by outing me. I thank you, because now what's happening is there is no rules, regulations, or mandates stating that I cannot come off and on the voter roll. Number 2, I'm cross-trained as a yeoman, a paralegal, a skip tracer, before the computer was ever invented.
So let me explain something to you, Mr. Elters. I did not come here to be like this at this moment here. I am respectfully requesting a private meeting. I've been up to the attorney's office 3 times asking for guidance. I went to the county records. That piece of property in question, where my neighbor's not here right now. Are you? I don't think so. So I went. It was $1,400 in the rear. That means 10 years behind at $40 ballpark average. You think you intimidated me by outing me. You should have requested me. I'm not the failure to appear crowd. When my government summons me, I show up. I'm not afraid. Do you hear me, sir? Look at me. You're looking at me, right? I don't know what else to say. I await your invitation. And Miss Hildy, I appreciate you for stepping in. Miss Bishop, I thank you for your time that day, but I do not come up here making false accusations whenever I go and check the records. And your staff sent me to this 3-minute charade. What about my special interest? What about the people's special interest? I want to buy a special permit here.
Please don't approach.
Oh, here's $100. Can I please get a special permit to extend this conversation at a later date at your convenience? Mr. Kearns is not afraid. Mr. Kearns is front and present. Decorum? Decorum. Decorum. You're out of line, Mr. Elters. You should have called me to the side. I aired my grievance, and now we're here at the 3-minute mark. There's $100. Give it to the sweeper. Give it to the custodian. Give it to Miss Nicole at the animal shelter. Or give me a special permit. I'm out.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, anyone else? Oh, you can't.
Obviously, like to get some extra time, like you
No,
gave
that's not the way it works.
last week.
That's
or
not the
last
way it
meeting.
works. Please, you know that's not the way it
I
works.
understand, but you
Please.
also know how it doesn't work when you
Okay. Okay. All right. We're going to close the call to public right now. We have a proclamation. Oh, you know what? Does anybody want to reply to anything before I just want to say that I appear to have a lot of power. I have 0 to do with signs in Bullhead City. Less than 0. I want that on the record because it seems that I am omnipotent. Okay. So we have a proclamation declaring June 2024 as Elder Abuse Awareness Month in Mojave County. I need a motion.
Chairman Angus?
Yes.
Since I'm an elder, I would love to make that motion.
We're all
to
elders, I think.
approve.
Go right ahead.
Make a motion that we approve this proclamation declaring June 2024 as Elder Abuse Awareness Month in Mojave County.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Off to the consent agenda. The following items listed under consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion of said items unless a board member so requests. Supervisor Johnson, anything?
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Supervisor Gould?
Nothing today, Madam Chairman.
Supervisor Lingenfelter?
Item 20.
20. All right. Supervisor Bishop?
Nothing.
And there was a request for number 9. I will take number 9 out. There are 2 people who are signed up to speak. So I need a motion to approve consent agenda items 5 through 40, less 9 and 20.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that the consent agenda is approved minus items number 9 and number 20.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 9, approve April 2024 monthly report for procurement activity between $10,000 and $100,000. Ms. Dowson. And then Mr. Hicks.
Good morning. I have visuals. My name is Tanya Dowson from Mojave County taxpayer, and I thought taxpayers might like to be aware that in addition to paying their own living expenses, are also paying home repairs for strangers who may not even pay taxes and these are paid for via federal grant. So there's one for $17,000 that covers new windows and tubs. Another one that covers also windows and vinyl plank flooring throughout the house for $34,920. Another one for $19,800 that covers the kitchen, refrigerator, washer and dryer, walk-in shower, ramp, folding seat, and flooring. And another one for $34,500 that replaced an entire front patio cover, or covered patio actually, HVAC and a water heater. The water heater was over $3,000. And then another one for $35,300, and it was for vinyl plank flooring again, and replacing a refrigerator, dishwasher, oven, cooktop, roof, and HVAC. And so forcing taxpayers to spend money on other people's home repairs is compulsory charity and public use of the money. Per the 5th and 14th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution, taxpayer property, including our money, can't be taken for public use without just compensation or due process. Some seem to just go along with the program and justify it, calling it legal plunder. Every dollar the government takes from the taxpayer to pay for the government's special interest or charity is one less dollar each taxpayer has to spend on charities of his choice or her choice, or needed home repairs of their own. I'm currently saving for a new roof, windows, refrigerator, and dishwasher, and this has taken money from my saving to do that. Sadly, again, a reminder seems appropriate from P.J. O'Rourke. There's no virtue in compulsory government charity. There's no virtue in advocating it. A politician who portrays himself as caring and sensitive because he wants to expand the government's charitable programs is merely saying that he's willing to try to do good with other people's money. Well, who isn't? And a voter who takes pride in supporting such programs is telling us that he'll do good with his own money if a gun is pointed to his head. Unquote. This spending is an inappropriate use of taxpayers' hard-earned money, and it's taxpayers' abuse. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hicks.
Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Stanley Hicks. I'm a Mojave County taxpayer. This is along the same lines that Ms. Dowson was talking about. I know I've had someone tell me that consent agenda items are the nickels and dimes of the county. Well, I just wanted to say these nickels and dimes for public record add up to $1,025,900. That's a lot of nickels and dimes that the general public doesn't know about, that they don't get on the site and look at what the money's being spent for. We're just supposed to take it for granted or at financial people's word that this is all legitimate, $15,700 worth of ammo for training. There's a whole lot of items on there that I feel need a closer look than to say, yeah, we're just in one fell swoop going to approve or disapprove all this. There's a lot of funds that, in my personal opinion, $1 million worth of expenditures, and whether it's grant money from the state, grant money from the federal, or local dollars, it's still our tax dollars being spent for items that are other than the protection of our life, liberty, and property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, any discussion, any questions?
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 20, acknowledge the abandonment application proposal from Scott Prestwich for the purpose of abandoning a portion of Tucson Road in Virgin Acres.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I pulled this. I'd like to ask Director Latosky just to give the board a brief overview of this, please.
Mr. Lat- Nope, not him. Sure. Mr. Latosky?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is the first step by which we received an abandonment application for a short section of a Tucson road. It's in the Beaver Dam area, just east of Old Pioneer Road. And the application basically entails abandoning a section from Manzanita to Virgin Acres Boulevard. And what happens here is I actually went to the site when I saw this come in. I had some other business in the Beaver Dam area to look at some other projects. And what this is at first glance is there's a singular property owner that owns multiple properties on both sides of Tucson Road that desires for the abandonment because he owns those various properties in the aggregate. However, there is one property immediately east of Manzanita. It's actually a constructed single-family home. And what happens with Tucson Road is it actually terminates right at the end of that developed property. So what will have to happen with the applicant, we've been discussing this with him, is the applicant will have to provide for at least a private egress easement to service that property that's at the corner of Manzanita and Tucson Road. Other than that, the rest of Tucson Road, which actually traverses a rather, the land profile there is it actually drops off considerably. All the way to Virgin Acres Boulevard is the property controlled by the applicant.
Madam Chair. Thank you, Director Latosky. That was my question. I just wanted to make sure that as a part of this, that there was going to be a legal access maintained for that one private residence.
Absolutely correct, Supervisor Lingenfelter. That has to happen. Otherwise, it would create a situation where that property would only have access via Manzanita Avenue, but that's completely impractical because their physical driveway is on Tucson Road. So that will be provided for by the applicant.
Very good.
If he
I'll make a motion to approve item number 20. Thank you, Director.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, opening the public hearings. Number 41, discussion and possible action to approve the adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution number 2024-136, accepting South Desert View from the existing end of maintenance south, approximately 0.28 miles. Anyone wish to speak? I have nobody signed up. Anyone? Okay, seeing none, I close the public hearing.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that was 4-1. Motion carries. Number 42, opening the public hearing. This is acknowledge receipt of and refer to Public Works, a petition for the Mojave County Board of Supervisors requesting that the following 3 roads are accepted into the Mojave County road system for regular maintenance, subject to meeting all applicable requirements and subsequent board approval. Anyone wish to speak to item 42? 42. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Anyone? I need a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
motion to deny.
We have a motion to deny.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Okay. All in favor of the denial?
Aye.
Aye.
All in opposition to the denial?
No.
Okay, so that's 3-2, and so the motion fails. Excuse me? I mean, the motion is to deny. I'm sorry. Well, you're right. I'm sorry.
Double negative.
Double negative. You got that. We always go through this with these denials. Okay, number 43. This is brought by the Chief Financial Officer. I'm going to open the public hearing, sitting as the Board of Directors of the Mojave County Flood Control District, to conduct the truth and taxation public hearing to receive public input. Do have somebody signed up, Mr. Robinson.
Stephen Robinson, Golden Valley. First, I echo 100% Butch Merriweather's statement. In the 20 years that he's lived here, and I've lived here 15, my family's lived here 40 years, there has not been one construction project in Golden Valley. There's lots of work that's proposed this year for Bank Street north of here, like 14 million. Thankfully, 2 million is all that's coming out of the county's finances. The other 14 million is coming from grants. So the new leader of the flood control department is doing a fantastic job. There have probably been 15 to 20 plus people over the last 20 years that have died trying to cross washes in Golden Valley. We've spent money paving Shinnerup, Legend Ranch Road, and other roads only to see them get washed out. Let's build bridges. Let's use some money that's in there, get more grant money for Golden Valley. I do support the 50-cent max tax because we live in a huge county, 13,000 square miles, vast amounts of washes that we have to deal with. Let's address the problem in Golden Valley because it's a serious problem. You know, I would hate to have had one of my family members drown in one of those washes trying to get to or from work, because I might sound like Mr. McClure if that had happened. But so I know it's not directly related, except we're taxing people at 50 cents, and we're taxing everybody at 50 cents per $100. We should stop ignoring Golden Valley, because that's not rural, as some would say. It's undeveloped urban. That whole straight stretch of 10 miles along 68, and both the Pravada development and the Dorado development rezoning, those are potential for people to build and live here. I want more people to move here that share the conservative values of the vast majority of the people. So please seriously get the flood control department to start focusing on Golden Valley. I'll gladly show you wherever we need to have roads or bridges built to protect the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. I need a motion?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Okay, I apologize. Okay, open the public hearing. Sitting as the Board of Directors of the Mojave County Free Library District, we're going to conduct the Truth and Taxation public hearing to receive public input. Again, Mr. Robinson.
Maybe someone else was coming up to speak. I have the April 24 Treasurer's Report. Budgets can disguise, financial reports can hide, but the tax reports can't lie, or the Treasurer's Reports. There's over $8 million in the library district right now. Last year they expected to spend $5.3 million. The year before, in 23, they spent $4.6 million. You could cut the tax by 25%, down 5 to 7 cents per $100, and it would take 4 years to eat up $6 million of that excess cash in that account. And that's not even counting the $2 million that's in the library grant fund. GFOA policy says have reasonable amounts of reserves, not 122% of the taxing and 150% of last year's budgeted or actual expenditures. So you have too much money in the account, and it's the taxpayers' money, not the counties. They should reduce. You should start reducing the amount of taxation at least over the next 3 years. If you only reduce $6 million out of the $8 million surplus, you'd still have whatever the grant money is for, plus $2 million. it's just the people are paying lots of tax dollars for things that they should not be paying for. And building up cash reserves is something they should not be paying for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Mr. McClure?
Scotty from Bullhead. I use that library in Bullhead 2 or 3 or 4 times a week, and I appreciate it being there. One thing I've noticed in the last few months since we've had a change in management, you have almost had 100% turnover. Why? I want that explained to me, why all the people that have worked there for several years are gone. There's one left.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'm going to close this public hearing, and we're going on to 45. I'm going to open this public hearing, another truth in taxation. Budget hearing to receive public input on the fiscal year 2024-25 proposed final budget and tax levies. Mr. Robinson, just sat down here.
I have studied the county's finances since 2010 or 11. I taught myself government accounting, and I think I've learned quite a bit by researching our county and seeing what we have done. From 2018 to 2023, we increased our gross revenue, general fund revenue, by $31 million. We went from $82 million to almost $114 million. We have built up reserves from $30 million back then to now it's $75 million going into this next fiscal year. Going back to what I said about the GFOA, the fund balance policy guidelines was to have 2 to 3 months of reserve. And I can see that we have problems with the inflation and the potential economic collapse, so we definitely need more. But there's 3 areas that we need to increase our budgeted expenditures. First and foremost, as Sheriff Schuster said last Monday, we're 30 to 40 deputies short. I would encourage this board to establish a plan to add 6 to 8 deputies a year for the next 5 years to get us up to the standard that we're required to as a population of over 220,000 people in the county. We've quadrupled in 4 decades, so we should increase the number of deputies. The second area that I want us to increase our funding is the planning and zoning, because they're taking forever, 2 to 4 years to pass a simple subdivision. I had a friend or a client that told me where his client was wanting to put in a septic tank out in Golden Valley. He paid the $518 permit. It expired before they inspected and approved it. He paid another $518 permit. It expired before he had it approved. He went to court to get his money back, and this court said there is no provision in the law or the ordinance for a refund of unexpired permits. We need to give people that area to where we expedite planning and zoning especially. Finally, the last area is, I drew a blank. There's a department that financial services, as a matter of fact, they just got someone back on staff. I think you should add at least 1 or 2 more people so they can prepare comprehensive annual financial reports. That's important to have full disclosure and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, anyone else wish to speak? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. On to the regular agenda, Mr. Mournian, number 46, sitting as the Board of Directors, the Mojave County Flood Control District. Discussion possible action to adopt the Mojave County Flood Control District tax rate of 50 cents per 100 of assessed value and levy of $11,547,818 for fiscal year 2024-2025.
Motion to approve.
All right, discussion. Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Director Mournian, I'm assuming that the flood control district exceeds the 2% increase under truth in taxation since we had a truth in taxation hearing.
That would be correct. Supervisor Gould, we're required, and have it up on the screen here, anytime that the proposed tax levy rate will generate more in tax revenue dollars than the prior year, we are required to hold a truth in taxation hearing. And so that's what we were doing for the 3 that have hearings today.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, any other discussion? We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have to do a roll call, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Supervisor Lingenfelter?
Aye.
Supervisor Johnson?
Yes.
Supervisor Bishop?
Yes.
Supervisor Gould?
No.
Chairman Angus?
Yes.
Passes.
Okay. Next up, item 47, sitting as the Board of Directors of Mojave County Free Library District. Discussion of possible action to adopt the Mojave County Free Library District tax rate of 0.2548 per 100 of assessed value and levy of $6,546,271 for fiscal year 2024-25.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Supervisor Lingenfelter?
Aye.
Supervisor Johnson?
Yes.
Supervisor Bishop?
Yes.
Supervisor Gould?
No.
Chairman Angus?
Yes.
4 to 1, it passes.
Okay, number 48. Sitting as the Board of Directors of the Mojave County Television District, discussion possible action to adopt the Mojave County Television District rate of 0.0563 per 100 of assessed value and levy of $1,446,449 for fiscal year 2024-25.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion section. Any further discussion?
Discussion, Madam Chair.
Please.
Discussion. Director Mournian, can you tell me what went into the recommended rate this year?
Supervisor Lingenfelter, yes, for the TV district, same was with all the other county departments. The departments submit the budget. We reviewed that budget. The county manager and finance sat down with the department, went through the proposed expenses, proposed revenues, and that was the basis of the budget.
Sort of capital expenditures are they? I'm having problems with my laptop right now. I can't pull it back up.
Just 1 second.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Well, Chief Financial Officer Mournian is looking it up. Let me see if I can offer a couple of thoughts. Supervisor Lingenfelter, there are 3 sites in particular that come to mind. One is up north in the Strip, where we have communication towers. It's on BLM land. It's due for renewal. They've asked us to take care of the site by removing some older equipment. These are rugged terrain. Anything you do costs quite a bit of money. So we're working with the Bureau of Land Management to renew our permit for the site, but we need to mitigate their concerns prior. That's one. The second is Goat Hill, just north of Lake Havasu City. We have had an older tower there that we've had issues with vibrations and such. It has had partial shearing failure. We're trying to resolve that, working with WECOM to come up with an engineered solution. We're probably looking at $300K for that. And then one last is north of Bullhead City, Also, we share that site with the Bureau of Reclamation. It's a communication site. It needs power, and we need to invest in a generator in the meantime. Those are some of the costs that we are budgeting for to maintain services to those area supervisors, so we can keep up the services required under the district.
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
Manager Eldridge, thank you. That was the information I was looking for. Thank you.
Okay. We do have somebody signed up. Is there anything else you need to tell us?
No, Chairman Angus.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Robinson?
Ronald Reagan said, if you don't believe in eternal life, just look at a government program. This program was very much needed. The taxing district was needed 60 years ago when we had nothing to compete with air signals. We now have the ability to have cable, fiber optic, satellite, internet, television. And yes, there are a few people that really can't afford any of those options right now. I recommend that you put it in the plan to ultimately cancel out the district and put the obligation of the district into the general fund hands so that we're not taxing the people, because half of the taxes come from businesses, major corporations. They're not benefiting from it. A small group of people who, Lord willing, they'll live another 10 years, 15 years, but not likely. We need to reduce taxes when possible. Now, getting back to the budget itself, the tax that you're planning the amount of money in that fund is 153% of the liability of the taxing levy. 150%. It's about 200% of last year's expenditures. That's an awful lot of money. You could cut out the tax for the next 2 years and still run it and have, most of the money still in there after 2 years, or if you just lowered the taxes. Again, I'm just making recommendations to save the taxpayers every little bit we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right.
Question for Director Morning, and if we're still in the public hearing, are we done with that?
We're done with public hearing.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Director Morning, do you know if the legislature gave the counties the authority to sweep special funds in the budget?
Supervisor Gould, I believe that was included in the budget that was passed this weekend. The county is allowed to sweep up to $1.25 million from any revenue source to transfer into the general fund.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other questions from Mr. Moynihan? Thank
I
you.
don't have a question, Madam Chair, but if the public is interested in doing away with the TV district, they can do it through a petition process, but I can guarantee you anybody that touches that TV district will be lynched.
Okay.
It's an observation.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for over 12, 13 years, and the TV district has changed. It has, and I used to be against it, but I've come to understand how it serves a purpose for lower income people and for people who can't get reception from other things. And maybe a new board will revisit it, but for now, we have to vote on this. Thank you. I need a motion.
We have a motion and a second.
We have a motion second. Okay, very good. Any further discussion?
Only that I use the free TV system and I love it. I don't have any cable.
Yeah, I think that's a
it's
lot
not
of
just
people.
low-income people. I
Okay.
think a lot of people appreciate it.
Yeah, because everything is so expensive these days. Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that passed 4-1. Thank you very much. Number 49, discussion and possible action to adopt the Holiday Shores Lighting District rate. This is in my district. It's just a little taxing district that helps out a part of Bullhead City. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Oh, okay. You don't want them to have light?
No, I think Bullhead City should pay for it because they pay for everybody else's streetlights. These folks are paying an additional tax.
Oh, okay. So then we already got number 50 going. So now the board will recess from our regular meeting and convene into a special meeting pursuant to ARS 42-17105 to take action to approve by motion and roll call vote the fiscal year 2024-2025 primary property tax levy in accordance with ARS 42-7107 and adopt the fiscal year 2024-2025 final budget with modifications as desired. Do I need a motion?
Chairman Angus, before we get into a motion, I do just need to inform the board of some modifications. That is part of the motion to approve the budget with the modifications. And so these would be any items that the board approved either at the last meeting or at today's meeting. So there are a number of items on the consent agenda that resulted in budget modifications, primarily several ARPA projects for Lake Havasu Library, the Mojave County Trails Mapping, Mojave Valley Fire Department, and then the Fort Mojave Fire District. There's also several grants, VOCA. Looks like most of these are with our county attorney's office. And then we had two purchase order rollovers. One of them related to the Colorado City water improvement projects, ARPA projects, and that's about $951,000. And then also Bullhead City Rotary Park Playground. There was some slight delays in the construction process, and so that won't get finished until July, so in fiscal 25. So I just wanted to make the board aware of those before we move any further.
Okay. But I was asking if I need a motion to convene into the special meeting, or was just reading it enough?
I don't think you need to. You can do it if you want to, just in case,
Nah,
but it doesn't
I'd
look
rather
like you
not.
need to. I don't think we've ever did before. We just went right into the meeting.
Okay. Then let's, who am I to change it, right? All right, so number 1 of our special meeting is that discussion and approve the fiscal year 2024-2025 property tax levies and adopt the fiscal year 2024-25 final budget with modifications as desired. We do have 2 people signed up. We're going to go with Ms. Esposito first. Is she gone? All right, then we'll go with Mr. Robinson, and if she shows up, you can speak.
Crazy. First off, with all due respect, I'd like to ask Supervisor Gould, perhaps instead of just voting no on every tax, perhaps maybe you can make alternative suggestions so that the board could consider alternatives to the proposed rate. That's just a thought. The
Public
county's,
hearing, you don't get to ask me questions.
but the county has, like I said, from 2018 to 2023, it's gone up $100 to $114 million in revenue. We have built up, after transferring out 30 some odd million into the capital improvements fund, which means we're taxing people today for future buildings. We still now have $75 million in the general fund. We've raised, approving this rate will raise the taxes another, just the raw property tax, another $2.5 million over 24, and another, a total of $5 million over 2023. So we are doing increasing taxes on people because of the inflation rate and inflation of property values. Further, in that same 5-year period, the state shared sales tax revenue is 81% higher than it was in 2018, and the auto in lieu tax went from $6.5 million to $11 million, so it's another 85% increase. So without the county doing any tax increase, we've seen a $25 million increase in state shared revenues. Now, I did appreciate my visit with CFO Morney on Friday, and I was shocked when he told me that they hadn't approved the fund balance policy guidelines presented by the GFOA. He said also that we have a structural deficit. I pointed out, take out the $11 million for the contingency, take out the $2 to $3 million excess budgeted for access, which has never been as high as their budgeting. We have a balanced budget with that, and that would even include the $1.6 million proposed COLA increase for the employees of the county. But if we're having a hiring freeze and we have such budget crisis, why are we increasing their wages? They may deserve it, I don't doubt that, and I definitely want to hire more people in the three areas that departments I've talked about: sheriff, planning and zoning, and financial services. But we're taxing too much. We're taxing the people way too much. Thank you.
Okay. So, anyone need any further information? Oh, so sorry, I put you away. I always do that at the end. I forget that. Okay.
Thank you. Obviously, this is the special meeting, item 1. So, I wanted to say that on approving the budget thing, first of all, I would love it if we could get to like zero-sum budgeting and do some things differently. But what I really wanted to say, and I hate to admit that I agree with Steve Robinson, it doesn't happen very often, but it does. We do need comprehensive annual financial report and other things to help with the budgeting process. But what I really, really wanted to say today is that Ron Gold at the last meeting brought up the possibility of taking out the special taxing districts like GVID from the budget, and I think that they should be removed for a separate vote. And the reason is that you're basically, essentially, Mr. Esplin, and your argument in court is that the taxing districts are not the county. They're their own entity. Therefore, referendum initiative, whatever, doesn't apply because it's not the county. It only applies to the county. But by putting them in there, if either they're a separate entity or they're not, and I think they should be a separate vote. And one of the issues that came up during the most recent budget workshop thing or presentation that was done was that a big piece of expensive heavy equipment was part of the GVID, and that was going to be sold out from under us to the I-40 project. Now, Supervisor Bishop stated on social media that GVID really hasn't used it. So part of the problem is I don't know what we paid for it. I don't know who paid for the maintenance on it or any repairs that were done. I don't know what the current value of it is. But if we paid a lot of money for it and GVID didn't use it and I-40 did, I don't know that we're even getting our best use value at the offer that it is going to be sold at. And that was, like happens with federal budgets and state budgets, that was tucked in the fine print of the budget. So if you pass the budget, but you pass it with the taxing districts in there, then everything in their budgets comes under the county purview, and it's not treated like a separate legal entity, which they are separate corporations. So I strongly feel that should be removed from today's budget consideration, and that should be voted on separately at the next meeting, because I think that if either it's county or it isn't, but you can't really have it both ways. And it looks to me like Golden Valley Improvement District may or may not be getting the best value for this little line item tucked in the budget. And that's what I wanted to say about that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Esposito. Okay. Oh, anyone else have any questions or further discussion? Okay. Okay, Supervisor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Robinson commented that I didn't offer any options. You've all been here when I've offered several options, and it just ends up being pointless and slows the entire meeting down. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Chairman Angus,
Yes.
before the board motions and votes, could I just say a couple of things?
Please.
Very, very briefly. So and if I can get the slide up on the screen. So as I mentioned before, obviously, when we have a tax levy rate that results in higher tax revenues compared to the prior year. We have to have the truth in taxation hearings. I will just say that a number of comments have been made today by members of the public, but there are a number of items that the county doesn't have control over, expenses in our budget, and I'll just point out a few of them. The access, the county's portion contribution to that state healthcare cost containment system went up by almost $600,000 for FY25. Whether the county receives a refund, and that's triggered by statute, the county will receive a refund if at the end of the fiscal year the access system has more money sitting in there than what their actual expenses were for the year, then they're required to refund those monies to the counties. We did receive significant amount back this year. It's not something that we can count on, and we can't just say, oh, we might receive a refund, and therefore we're not going to send our contribution in the state each month.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I don't mean to interrupt Director Mournian, but as our population continues to increase and we have new people that move to Mojave County, become residents, and they're on access, does that increase the county's cost for access?
I'm not sure on Supervisor Lingenfelter. I'm not sure exactly how the formula, the intricacies of that work. I would imagine it is tied to the number of people that are enrolled in the program. I don't know if it's directly related to how many in the county or if it's a statewide and then they just do an average.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
And then there was just two other items that I wanted to point out real quickly. The budget that was passed over the weekend at the state level also does not include distinct funding for probation salary increase backfill. So last year they did a one-time appropriation to cover raises that were approved by the county for state-funded probation. That is about $600,000 in FY25, and so it kind of remains to be seen. There was not specific funding set aside for that. Rumor is AOC might have the ability to shuffle funds around. Not entirely sure on that. We haven't received a firm yes or no on that at this point. So it's possible that the general fund will have to pick up another $600,000 in costs. And then lastly, there's also a proposed increase in the county's contribution for what it pays for its share of the justices of the peace. Then that is about a $44,000 increase. So I just wanted to make the board aware of those. And then again, as I did point out when Supervisor Gould asked me about this last meeting, GVID is not a taxing authority. They don't levy a tax. Their revenue is generated from fees. And so what's included in the budget, GVID is included in this budget because the Board of Supervisors sits as the Board of Directors for that district, similar to flood control, similar to the TV district and the library district. Those are rolled up into our budget because of the fact that the Board of Supervisors sits as the Board of Directors for those districts.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Johnson?
Were you saying that probation is getting $600,000 in raises? You could explain that a little differently.
Supervisor Johnson, that's a great question. So I believe it was any raises that have been given since 2022, I believe, and then there's quite a few probation employees where it's split funded, where the state pays for a portion of it and the county pays for a portion of it. And so it's been a 1 year at a time type of thing where the state has appropriated funds for that to cover that portion, because the authority to set their salaries rests with the counties, but the state has not seen fit to actually fund the raises that statute gives the counties the ability to set.
Wait, how many employees, do you have any idea how many employees that is? Just a ballpark. I know our probation officers aren't paid that well.
Give me 1 second, Supervisor Johnson. I don't have the breakout of which ones are state funded versus which ones are wholly county funded.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Johnson, let me see if I can take a shot at this. The legislature has, since either 2021 or 2022, not appropriated annually the funding needed for the courts in general and probation specific. And so since 2022, the raises that the board approved for county employees, we approached the board with the understanding that we don't have two-class or two-tier employee system. So we presented, we suggested to you that the probation employees get the same pay increases as the rest of the county employees. So that has taken place, and now we find ourselves with the legislature uncertainty about funding the probation positions that are both, really, in all honesty, both the state funded as well as the county funded for that difference. So it is really an accumulation of more than 1 year, but it's directly related to this county approaching probation with the understanding that we're going to treat our employees, all of them, the same, those that get a paycheck with the state seal on it versus the county, the ones that get a check from the county.
Yeah, I guess where I was getting a little confused, they thought, and these are probably old numbers now, but to give a 3% raise cost us a little over $1 million for all county employees. That's what was confusing me. How you're saying probation is costing $600,000. I know there's not that many of them.
Supervisor Johnson, as County Manager Elters mentioned, and what I was trying to explain and apparently did a poor job of, it's the cumulative impact since 2022. And so as there's been annual increases, whether it was after the board approved the annual 3% merit increase or any other raises that may have taken place in there, it's the cumulative impact adds up to $600,000 roughly in FY25.
So ongoing, we got a cost shift $600,000.
That would be correct, Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the raises to the JPs and things like that were thrown in at the end of the session.
Chairman Angus, I'm not sure at which point that reared its head. We got word of it. I believe it was early last week or late the week before. CSA informed us that this was something that was contemplated within the budget, and so they basically increased the county's share by 7%. It used to be a 60-40 split,
Right.
and now it's a 67-33% split.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? I need a motion.
Chairman Angus, I'll make a motion to approve the budget as submitted
With
with the modifications.
I need a second. Well,
I'll second. I will say, though, that I don't think you should ever give full-time permanent raises with one-time revenues. And that happened a couple of years ago, and I think that's part of the problem that we're seeing. I'll second.
okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion?
Chairman, if I could have some clarification. Does this motion also include the adoption of BOS Resolution 2024-135, thereby adopting the property tax levies, or is that going to be done separately?
No, that would include it, and I'll amend my motion to reflect that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And
So-
does the second reflect that as well?
There was a second.
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion and second. We do have to do a roll call.
Supervisor Lingenfelter,
Aye.
Supervisor Johnson,
No.
Supervisor Bishop,
Yes.
Supervisor Gould,
No.
Chairman Angus.
Yes.
3-2.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Board.
Off to, we adjourn from the special meeting and we resume to the regular meeting. Our last item, item 51, is from Human Resources to approve the following exceptions to general fund hiring freeze.
Motion to approve.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all very much.
We got up before lunch.